for Fair Forward at GIZ, Artificial Intelligence for All, and Dr. Leona Craffert, who's the founding director of the CoLab for Digital Inclusion and Social Innovation at the University of the Western Cape. Ladies, to both of you, thank you so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, this sounds all very new age and quite exciting, actually. So let's start maybe with the big picture. And I'm not sure which one of you wants to answer this, but what is the AI maturity assessment framework and why was it necessary to create one?
Maybe I'll start, Leona. So a little bit of context about this. So at GIZ, which is the German Development Agency, we know as a country and positioning ourselves, South Africa, as a continental leader, a thought leader in the space. We've seen AI and tech regulation advance in many countries. Different countries are doing different things. And so, of course, as South Africans, we ask ourselves, what are we doing? What about us? Where is our regulation going? But at the same time, we know that South Africa is a very special country. We have a very advanced industry sector, very incredible academic institutions like UWC and many others. So we figured that a normal AI policy or just a framework or guidance isn't going to be enough. Let us actually look at what do we have? What is our baseline? Where are we starting from in terms of tech and industry advancements, and then decide what is necessary in terms of a policy or a strategy and what interventions need to be put in place. And from that perspective, we said, okay, well, how are we going to do this? Well, we need to decide or measure our maturity. And to do that, we need a framework. And obviously, once we have developed this framework and we've tested the maturity, now we understand where we are as a country and what interventions are really necessary.
Okay, so Leona, you looked at 8 different domains. Which areas show the most promise in your view, and which are the biggest weaknesses?
That's a big question. If we look at specifically at how it measured, all 8 domains or 7 of the 8 domains ranges between level 1 and 2. And the domain around security and privacy has 3. But maybe I should just quickly explain the numbers we are throwing around. So we worked on the maturity from level 0 to 5. So that's an ISO standard used in measuring maturity. And it's trying to depict progress from input activities or from 0 input activities to actually to demonstrable outcomes where you can see what is the outcome or the impact of interventions. So level 1 and 2 typically shows that there are activities happening in the different spaces, so we can mention and identify activities that's happening. Level 3 actually shows there's a more coordinated shift or collaboration, and we're starting to capture these activities in a more structured way. And then when you move to 4 and 5, this is where we see that there's evidence of positive outcome, and that when we measure progress on a continual basis and we adjust our strategies and interventions to build on our evidence. So if you have that in mind and look at the 8 dimensions, it means that in 7 of actually in all domains, there are various initiatives and activities happening, but it is mostly uncoordinated. It happens at different levels. It's done by different institutions, but towards 3 shows there's a coordinated approach because there we've got strong already policies in place. However, in terms of implementing it to demonstrate outcome, that is still the way we need to go. So I think the positive part that we should share is, and I'm looking this side because this is my screen where I can just refer to the document. The positive aspect is there is activities in all of the areas. There's not an area that shows a 0. So there's an awareness. There are different role players and stakeholders that are really contributing. I think the major message from the assessment is having now evidenced or baseline evidence, that it allows or provides the opportunity for all stakeholders to talk together, to collaborate, to share, and to work in a more coordinated effort, um, and identify priorities for us as a country that we all can hone in to ensure that we're really taking that competitive action forward.
So, Deshni, how does South Africa's AI maturity compare with other African nations, perhaps, and also global benchmarks?
So this is a very interesting question. I can say that what we've done, and particularly to the context of what we've done it, and maybe I'll take a step back first. In this way, what we had to do in developing this framework, a lot of people might say, well, you know what, there are frameworks and there are maturity assessments. Why do you need to develop something different? And I probably would go so far as to say that South Africa, but also the global South, have very unique circumstances. Oftentimes, when you find frameworks that are developed for test or measuring benchmarks, they are developed in global north countries, or usually at spaces or tables where the global south or global majority voices are not represented or underrepresented. And so it was very important for us, and you heard Leona speak about the levels of maturity, to understand what is applicable and necessary for South Africa with our very unique circumstances, our very diverse backgrounds, but at the same time make it globally applicable. So we still want to compare apples with apples. How do we compare against Kenya? How might we compare against Singapore or someone like that, or any other country? But at the same time, appreciate the unique circumstances and what we are able to offer as South Africa. So that's the first part. And that's why the assessment is done with these very unique domains and subdomains. In terms of comparisons with other country, I would definitely say that where we stand, the assessment and the outcome in and of itself has elements where we're doing really well and elements where we can do better. So I would say holistically, it wouldn't be fair to say, well, that country is leading and that country is not. Because what could be leading in a particular area means that you could develop in others. Um, Definitely, we have not seen, and I say this with a disclaimer, from the work that we have done so far, we have not seen any other country in sub-Saharan Africa or in Africa produce a maturity assessment of this
Right.
manner and of this context, looking at the elements that we've looked at and with this granular detail.
All right. And very briefly, because we run out of time, Leona, there's an interactive dashboard and AI agent built into this project. I'm wondering, how will these tools keep the data relevant and useful for decision makers?
So that is where we require the contribution of stakeholders. So it's a very useful tool. We can't talk about AI and not using it in our maturity assessment. So the agent is active, but it requires continual assessment or support. So in principle, what should happen is as new information emerge, we can add it to our portfolio of documents and evidence, and can use the agent to, in a much quicker and faster way, do an assessment. The current process took us about 10 to 11 months. We don't have the resources to do that on an annual basis. So the agent will help us to speed up the process, but it still requires human oversight. It cannot work on its own. So you need that human oversight to drive the process, to validate and to ensure that what we are doing or what the agent is doing is actually valid, responsible, and applicable, and a fair reflection of the changes on the South African landscape.
Ladies, it's been great talking to you, and this sounds all very, very exciting. Thank you so much indeed for giving us a chance to find out more about it.
Thank you, Peter.